In the early 1940s, while the Netherlands was under Nazi occupation, a small group of Jewish people made a desperate decision in order to survive. Two families, the Franks and the Van Dons, along with a dentist named Fritz Pfeffer, went into hiding in the back of a commercial building in the center of Amsterdam. This hidden space, cut off from the outside world, became their refuge for more than 2 years. From July 1942 until August 1944, they lived in silence, under constant fear, completely dependent on the help of trusted friends on the outside. Among them was a 13-year-old girl named Anne Frank. As a way to cope with confinement, uncertainty, and the changes of adolescence during wartime, she began to write. Not for the world, but for a diary she named Kitty. In its pages, Anne recorded daily life inside the hiding place, the tensions between adults, her personal fears and hopes, and her reflections on life, humanity, and the future. Without knowing it, she was creating one of the most important personal accounts of the 20th century. In 1944, the secret annex was discovered, and its occupants were arrested, forced to leave everything behind. Years later, among the few belongings that were preserved, Anne's notebooks were found. After the war, her writings were published as a book that would cross borders and generations, carrying the voice of a young girl who lived and wrote during one of the darkest periods in human history. More than a diary, this book is an intimate portrait of how ordinary people tried to preserve their humanity in the midst of the horrors of war. Before the war takes center stage, Anne Frank's diary begins with something far more personal, a quiet need to be understood. At just 13 years old, she decides to entrust her thoughts to a diary, not because she expects anyone to read them, but because she longs for a true friend. In her imagination, that friend takes shape and receives a name, Kitty. The first entries revolve around her birthday in June 1942. Anne wakes early, filled with anticipation, even though she knows she must wait before getting out of bed. When the moment finally arrives, she is met with warmth and affection. Family greetings, the presence of her cat, flowers on the table, and a collection of modest but meaningful gifts. Books, sweets, small games, and a bit of money. Simple pleasures that still spark excitement and curiosity. The day continues like any other. She goes to school, shares treats with classmates, and returns home. On the surface, it is the ordinary life of a teenage girl. But beneath that normality, Anne begins to reveal deeper emotions. She reflects on friendships that fade, new connections that form, and the persistent feeling of being surrounded by people while still feeling alone. At this point, the diary becomes more than a record of daily events. It turns into a place of honesty. Anne recognizes that she has loving parents, a sister, relatives, classmates, and even admirers. Yet she feels she lacks someone with whom she can truly speak without pretense. Writing becomes her way of organizing thoughts and expressing feelings she cannot comfortably share aloud. As her personal reflections unfold, Anne gradually places her life within a larger and increasingly hostile world. With the outbreak of war and the Nazi occupation of Amsterdam, everyday life begins to shrink. Restrictions multiply. Certain places become forbidden. Schedules are enforced. Public symbols are imposed. Activities once taken for granted, riding a bicycle, attending public entertainment, practicing sports, are no longer allowed. Freedom is not taken all at once, but piece by piece, until fear quietly settles into daily routine. Still, Anne shows how life stubbornly goes on. There is school, table tennis matches, shared laughter, and ice cream outings with friends. There are also the awkward discoveries of adolescence, attention from boys, brief infatuations, and her own humorous, sometimes ironic observations about these moments. Alongside family memories, personal losses, including the death of her grandmother, and the growing pressure of wartime restrictions, Anne paints an honest portrait of herself. She is a young girl, standing between childhood and adulthood, between normal life and looming danger. In these early pages, there is not yet hiding, nor silence, nor the constant fear of arrest. There is only a thoughtful teenager trying to understand herself and the world around her, and finding, in the patience of paper, a place where she can truly exist. In the days that follow her birthday, Anne turns her attention to school, and to the quiet tension that fills her classroom. A teachers' meeting is approaching, and the students anxiously speculate about who will advance to the next grade and who might be held back. Some turn the uncertainty into jokes and bets, others into nervous chatter. Anne watches it all with a mix of humor and sharp observation. She feels confident she will pass, even if not brilliantly. Mathematics worries her more than any other subject, but overall, she trusts the outcome. What stands out most is her relationship with her teachers. She gets along with nearly all of them, though one, her elderly math teacher, has grown impatient with her tendency to talk too much. As punishment, he assigns her an essay meant to correct her behavior. Instead of feeling embarrassed, Anne sees it as a challenge. She reflects carefully and responds with wit rather than apology, turning the assignment into a clever argument about why talking is part of who she is. Her intelligence and humor transform what was meant as discipline into entertainment, even earning laughter from the teacher himself. When another punishment follows, this time with an intentionally ridiculous title, Anne refuses to be discouraged. With the help of a friend, she turns the task into a playful poem full of symbolism and irony. What could have humiliated her instead becomes a moment of triumph. From that point on, her teacher no longer assigns extra work and even jokes about her in class. Outside the classroom, summer arrives with unbearable heat. Daily life grows more exhausting, especially because Jewish citizens are no longer allowed to use public transportation. Anne and her family walk everywhere. Simple routines become physically draining, and school days feel longer than ever. Even small errands,